Okay, good morning, guys. I'm sorry, but hopefully this is the last day. I'm almost better. And I'm just going to the doctor tomorrow to make sure this is over, and then I'll be back on Monday. Um, anyway, um, so today you're gonna have a quiz. It's not exactly the quiz I originally planned. It's 20 multiple choice questions, all on the basics of programming, variable types, um, order of operations, stuff like that. I mainly want to make sure that we're able to get the format working. We had some glitches yesterday at the 12 o'clock class, but we think we got them all ironed out. So today, hopefully we make sure we've got you guys all straight and that we have a dry run. Now, your midterm on Monday will not be multiple choice type questions in the lab, but I am going to give you, and I'm posting an outline. I have it written up. I just have to put it up on Brightspace. But matter of fact, let me just open that while we're talking. The I'm sorry. I've just got a bunch of people just came in to get them all joined. So the test today will have 20 multiple choice questions. You've got 30 minutes to do it, which is, I think, too much time. But again, because we may have some glitches with things, we're not sure. You may get into trouble signing in or something like that. It shouldn't be a problem because it's running right out of Brightspace. So there's nothing to really sign into other than your usual sign into Brightspace. And the test will be opening up at I think 10 o'clock, and it's open until 10:45 or something. You have 30 minutes to complete it. Um, on Monday, the lab part of your midterm, which will be roughly, I think, 30 to 40 points, probably 40 points. I take that back, 40 points. We'll be writing uh, short, short programs, okay, not long programs. Like this wouldn't be one of them, but write a program that allows the user to enter 3 test scores and output the average, something like that. So 3 things like that. So I just want to make sure that you can, handle input, output, set everything up correctly, um, pick the right kinds of variables for things, that you remember to use order of operations, so things that will help solve the problem and also catch syntax errors. Okay, so that you're on the computer, you're working with something that will help you out. Not that you're not going online, but as you're typing, certain things will show up, or when you run your program and you get an error message, you have to fix something. So that's, a little different from working on a piece of paper where you're giving me more the algorithm approach to the problem. And yes, I expect something to be reasonably syntactically correct, but it's not a program. It's just a fragment of code. It's just a part of the code that would do something. So you'll have, like I said, you'll have 2 or 3 short programs to write, compile, and run. And we have the full hour for it. I'm putting 50 minutes just that, I don't expect it to take the full hour. You can have the full hour. If any of you have accommodations, let me know. We can work that out. You know, like I said, you can stay late, come early, whatever you need to do it. Um, if you'd rather go somewhere to take it, I have to know that ahead of time. But otherwise, I'm going to assume you're taking the test with me, okay, or in the lab with Mr. Gomez. Um, the part of the test that's in person, again, you won't be allowed to have any devices, your cell phones and all of that stuff will be in your book bags and they will be in the front of the room. Um, but on the in-class part, I will give you a little piece of code to trace, you know, just to show what happens when we plug into the code. Now that may look in a way kind of like something we did yesterday, not exactly, but you know, where you have variables, you're putting in output, putting in the input, and then tracing through what the actual answer would be. Okay, and if it won't be hard arithmetic, you know, if you have to divide something, it'll be not divided by, you know, 113, you divide it by 3 or 4. Okay. Um, you know, really, you need some kind of fundamental arithmetic skills. This is ridiculous that people are graduating college and can't divide by 2. So you have to be able to do that. I'm sorry. Um, you just don't belong out of the 3rd grade if you can't multiply or divide simple 1-digit numbers. Um, so the things I will be looking for in class would be more the selecting the right kinds of variables, writing the equations correctly, you know, following the PEMDAS idea that you know how to write an if-else statement, an if-else-if statement. Um, you could write a simple switch case statement. Um, and if I give you code that you can trace the values to see if the code is working correctly or identify there's an error in the code. You know, maybe I'll leave out a parentheses that makes an answer evaluate incorrectly, you know, and that you recognize that this is not, you know, correct form. Or I will, you know, declare something to be an int and then try to put a double into it or something like that, which can't happen. So things like that. Basically, the kind of things that were in the participation exercises or the challenge exercises. I also did post in Zybooks the challenge problems to do for the midterm extra credit. Um, I know if I don't call it extra credit, you won't do it. So I'm calling it extra credit, but the real point is not to get extra credit. Okay, the real point is it's a good way to study. It's a good way to practice. People are always asking for a practice sheet, study sheet. You're in college. No, I'm sorry. You're responsible for making your own study sheets, figuring out what you don't know. You're responsible for taking notes. I'm starting to get messages about why didn't I post the notes for something. Well, first of all, most of the notes are posted, but why am I posting what I wrote in class? You were there, or you are here right now. So it is your responsibility to take notes. The pandemic is over. Okay, even though I've been sick this week, um, you're able to work in person. It's not like you're working asynchronously. You know, that was hard. Synchronous classes worked, asynchronous didn't. And they didn't work as well because some people would log in and then not do anything, but that was their fault. Um, So, you know, and yeah, there was problems in case some of you didn't hear me say this yesterday. There were problems with the recordings for what was it, Tuesday. You know, we were having all kinds of internet issues the whole day, and the recordings were a mess. They were garbled, they were chopped up, they were in and out, parts of it didn't record. then there were large parts where it didn't record the audio or it didn't record the screen. So I'm not putting, they're not going to help anything, okay? I did put up my handwritten notes, which are pretty much everything I talk about. Everything I do is either the handwritten notes or from the slides from the book. So that's it. That's it for the exam. Now today, just a couple of things. Hold on, I got a few people coming in. A couple of things I just want to make clear for today's quiz. You must take it in the lab. Okay, some people had sent me messages after lab yesterday that they had trouble. The connection kept going out. They didn't know how to get help. And so when I wrote back to them, I said, why didn't you just tell your teacher, your lab instructor, that you were having trouble signing in? And I didn't get an answer from the student, but I did contact their instructor, who said, well, they weren't there. No, lab is in person. Quizzes are in person. Tests are in person. Okay, so no, I mean, if there's an instance where we have to do some kind of a makeup thing and there isn't time to do it right in class, that's done on a lockdown browser with cameras, and it's an oral exam with me. So you can't just decide, oh, I'll go sit somewhere else or I can look everything up. No, that's not the way it works. Okay? There was no reason for anyone to try to take that lab quiz anywhere but in the lab. If that happens on Monday, it will be a 0 on the lab part. Okay, and if anyone's not planning on trying that today, um, it will be a 0. I'm not accepting it. Okay, exams are in person. Anyway, okay, so that's it. It's not going to be a horrible exam. It's if you've been following what's going on, you're going to be fine. Um, like I said, there's a little leeway with syntax on the handwritten part. That doesn't mean you're going to get 100 and have nothing right. But if you're missing a semicolon, I'm not going to take off 20 points. I may take off 1, because frankly, that's probably the biggest error you get when you're in the lab to begin with, is that semicolon expected thing. All right, so with that, let's go back now and start looking at loops. I probably will have one thing about loops, maybe on the handwritten part. Just you don't have to do it. Just something that might be interesting to for an extra credit for 5 points or something, to see if you can write a loop. All right, so oh no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted, that's it, loops day 2. Okay. All right, so yesterday we started looking at a for loop. Oh, good. My pen, there we go. Okay. And we said the syntax for a for loop was for, now this is a general, and I'm going to again put this thing because I want to explain something about this. Okay. So again, if you weren't here yesterday, this is like important. So Pay close attention. The syntax for the for statement. Consists of an initialization. We initialize a counter. For loops are always written with some kind of counter in mind. I want to do something 10 times. I want to read in a list of 10 elements. Something that I know there's a fixed number of times that I'm going to be executing this code. Okay, now that's the way it's designed. All right, we are not necessarily locked into that, but that's the main criteria for choosing a for statement. If you have a distinct start and a distinct end, whether you're doing something 10 times or whatever, you're looking at all the elements in the list, something like that, all the characters in the string, because we know that it's, we said the string has a size or a length, and we can use that. This again is the initializing. Then we have the test condition. And the test condition is to enter the loop. So this is tested before I read the cout statement. Okay, and then the I++, the increment, after the body. Oh, that looks like baby. Okay, so when I read the statement, I start off, I initialize I at 1, and I test. Is what I said I for less than 5? Yes, it is. It's 1. Go into the loop, do what it says. All it says to do here is cout I. So all that's going to happen on this program there's my lovely flat screen. I start I at 1. If I is 1, yes, this is true. I write the 5. I write I. Then I do the I++. The I++ takes me to 2. Again, that is less than 5. I write the 2. I++. I becomes 3. It's still true. I write 3. The original deli got shut down. I don't know for whatever reason. So they made a new GMT. It's the Mexicans in the GMT. I think the main that be in the front. I don't know what you look Italian or some shit. I ain't gonna front. You feel like a fairy, but could you go on mute, please? Thank you. And finally, I goes to 5. Now, is I less than 5? No, it is not. And I exit the loop. Okay, so this code would give me the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's going to fall out on 5. Now, here's something I didn't discuss with you yesterday, and I think I mentioned this back maybe over a week ago, actually, about something about variables. When I come out of this loop, I have the C out I. What should that show me? When I see out 5, see out I, what am I going to see?
Error.
Ooh, who said that?
Was
Hi, Lewis. Why is it an error?
because once the loop finishes, the I is deallocated from memory.
Very good. This will give me an error because I defined, and that's why I wrote this in the red. I defined I only within this loop. So in C++, in Java, when you take that in 212, when I define a variable within a block of code, it's deallocated. Well, it's not really deallocated. That's a little stronger than 2, but it's not visible anymore. It doesn't actually deallocate until I end the method. But I can't see it. If we were in person right now, I'd be doing a little John Cena thing because that seems to be one thing people get, that I can't see you thing or you can't see me, whatever it is when he waves his hand over his face. Um, this is an error because I is only visible the word we really use is scoped. Now, what if I really did want to see that I? I might want to know that. If I want access, and there were a lot of times where I might want to see that. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe I didn't know what the actual I was. Maybe I'm at a point where somebody gave me a set of data and they told me that there's, a dot length elements in there, but I don't know what dot length is. You don't worry about that for me. The a dot length or username dot length characters in the string, and I don't know what that is. As I move through this, I is moving, right? I'm going to the first letter and the second letter and the third letter. So I could get the answer and then it would tell me how long it was. If I want to be able to see the I outside the loop, I would define it this way. I would write int I and then start my for. For I equals 1, I less than n, I plus plus. Now I itself is scoped outside. Right now it's scoped for your whole main program. So it means anywhere after here I can still see I. It was allocated. I put a value into it, so I did initialize. Well, that's not a 1. That's the one. So I declared it. I didn't put the value in right away, and that's why you see sometimes in the sample code in the book, sometimes they write int I equals 1 or int a equals 10 or something like that, and other times they'll just have int a, and then later on in the code a equals 10. Okay, so either way is correct. If I'm only using I for keeping count of the loop, then it's fine to put int I equal. If you want to be able to access I when the loop ends, so it's not just for the loop, it's for the loop and forever on till the program ends, till the method, the function that you're in ends, then define it this way, okay? So these are two ways of doing the same exact thing. Okay, it's not different code in any real meaningful way, but it is different for memory allocation. Okay, and you become more conscious of that in 211, 212, 313. You worry more about how you're using memory. And right now we're just getting things to work, but it's good to know. So again, we could write a nice little project, which may actually be our project. I'll give you a couple pieces of code that'll be project one, which is really just a couple of small things. But I think what would be an interesting project or an interesting idea to using loops. Okay. So you're starting a retirement account. Don't laugh. Probably already too late. You want to start a retirement account, and your plan is to deposit let's say $500 a year for 30 years. Trying to put a reasonable number, something that would make sense. Say 3% interest. I mean, that a retirement account, you should look for higher interest than that, but a regular savings account now is garbage. Then after 30 years, you're going to stop depositing. And just leave the money in the bank. And finally, after another 10 years, start withdrawing. Okay. And we can look at different amounts of money you want to withdraw. We could try um say we could try $1,000 a year. We could try taking out $200, or maybe $300 a month. Different numbers like that. How long will your money last? Okay, now, first of all, whole time. Does that seem like a good program to be able to write? I mean, let's face it, you may do very well in the future and have an accountant handle all your investments. Only 10 people are paying attention to me? Seriously? There's 19 people here. You know what? This is why the grades may not look so good. I'm just saying. 19 people, only 12 people answered, and that was after I let out a yell. That's not good. Um, but you know, this is the kind of thing you get in a financial advisor. Right now, I don't think any of you have money to go pay an accountant to do your stuff. Maybe you do. I certainly didn't in college. Frankly, I don't pay an accountant now. But this is something I could write code for. This is something that I could simply figure out to see how much money I would have if I did this. And you know, you'd be surprised. Um, if you start these accounts early, you get decent, excuse me, you get decent money. When I first started working, I was teaching in a private school, 8th grade. So I was getting paid like nothing. It was terrible. My starting salary as a teacher was $9,000 a year. That was with a master's in math. Um, so my father took pity on me, and he put $2,000 into an IRA account for me. And he did that the first 2 years I taught. Now after that, it's not that my salary always was terrible there, but he had retired by then, so he really didn't have money to give me anymore. And I honestly never was able to contribute after that, because even though I was not vested in an entire retirement plan back then, you couldn't get the deduction. So anyway, the only money that ever got put into that IRA account was $4,000, and I just never touched it after that. And by the time my son was going to college, there was over $45,000 in there. Now, it was just $4,000 put in when I was in my 20s. And when my son hit college, I had that much money available. I took loans out against it because I couldn't withdraw, but I had that money available. And of course, now since I took the loans again, I don't have it now to use it for retirement. But the money adds up. And so it's a very reasonable thing to say, all right, I can put away money in this account for 30 years. You know, put in $10 a week. It doesn't have to be 500 in a chunk. If you put away $10 a week or $50 a month, it's painless. 500 in one chunk might not be so easy. And then after 30 years, maybe I'm getting ready to retire. So instead of putting that money away, I want to travel a little at this point. So I stop putting money in, I just leave it there. And then 10 years later, I said, that's it, I'm done working. I'm going to start living off this money now. How long can I live off this money? In addition to my Social Security and other stuff. If it's talking about a true 401k or something, where it really is all you're going to have for retirement, you'd need to put more away, obviously. But this is how investment works. And this is a program you can, well, after the last couple of things we talk about, maybe not today. Yeah, I have time to at least introduce it. I could write this whole program as of today. So I don't need to pay a CPA to do this. I can do this myself. Now, clearly, I hope everyone realizes there's another poll. Does everyone, or do you see how you
You
could?
got rid of the poll.
I got rid of it. Oh no.
Yes.
Well, I didn't want to do that. Relaunch. Okay. Can you see how you would start this program? What would be the beginning part of this program? How many of
You
you
define the variables.
give them a minute first to tell me yes, they know how to do it. Okay, people are feeling pretty confident. Okay, so how would this start? How would I?
You define the variables. So the
Okay.
first one would be like annual deposit, which is the $500, and then I'll let you write it out. Then would be the interest rate, which we said was 3%, so 0.3, 0.03, sorry.
Oh, I go to find that 0.3.
Yeah, me too.
You know,
Numbers would look very different if it was 0.3.
19% I had on my investment account. 19%.
19 is pretty good.
That was really good. I'm not talking about 0.9, 1.9. I'm talking about 19%.
Yes.
Almost 20% interest. Forget those days. That's gone. That was the 70s. But okay, so I got my interest rate is 0.03. I've got my $500 deposit.
Next would be the time scale. So 30 years, which would just be years equals 30 or time scale again.
Yeah, let's look for years. Okay. And then how am I
And then
actually?
your withdrawal also would be the last variable that you declare.
And that's going to be some kind of a CN thing because that's not fixed. Okay, so we've got all our variables now defined. And now how am I going to start calculating this? What can I use here to find out how much money I'm going to get depositing this $500 a year for 30 years? How would I do that?
Sorry, say that again?
How would I do this part to figure out how much money I would have if I deposit the $500 a year for 30 years at 3%? What kind of code would I need to do that?
Would it be a for loop?
Would be a for loop. I would start my variable I at 1
Equals
year.
5. Oh, okay.
And where is it going to end?
30 years.
The 30 years. And I can use years there. Because maybe I want to decide to work only 20 years. Or maybe I'm like me, I'm working like 40 something years, you know. And then I plus plus. And then I just need that interest statement. So, oh, that's going to be like the thing we did yesterday, right? Oh, we need one more thing. We need a total balance, huh? Which, when I start, I have nothing, so. Okay, so then my actual balance each year, I'm going to add the balance. Oh, killed the pen. It seems to be the cracks that are causing it, by the way. So now I'm going to, I'll say it and then I'll have to reboot. So it's going to be the balance plus the $500 and then add the 3% interest. Right, so I'm going to add the $500, the annual deposit, and then I'm going to put 3% interest on it. And that'll be my new balance. Now, actually, I have to be careful about when I'm adding this money in. When do I want to deposit the money? That may change this a little bit. Now I'm being a little bit fancier, but do you want to deposit your money in the beginning of the year or the end of the year?
Definitely at the beginning.
Okay, good. This, by the way, is what we call an annuity account. So in an annuity account, you actually make more money. It makes a difference depositing in January instead of December because you've got a whole extra year of interest. All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, right now she was just explaining for loops. I'll be back. Oh, am I talking? I
Okay, so if I'm gonna deposit in January. Okay. I'm going to first add my deposit. And then I'm going to multiply the new amount by the interest rate. Oh, this is annual deposit. And then if I want to leave this, maybe, I don't know if I want to or not, but if it makes me feel good to look at this every year. Now I can see how much my money is worth at the end of every year.
Professor, should it be 1 multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate?
Oh, well, I added, oh, yeah, no, you're right. I don't want to do both adding and that. So I was starting it the other way, but yeah, 1 plus interest rate. Originally, I was throwing it in as a plus, but I like this better. Okay, so there we go. Now I can actually see how much money I'm making. Now, the thing that I can't see here, I could still continue writing this, but it's going to be a little tricky at this end, where after 10 years, start withdrawing money, and how long will my money last? Well, how will I know? I mean, once I withdraw the money, I'm taking out all the time, right? So when I say how long is it going to last, what do I mean? I mean, how much, when am I out of money? When is my balance hitting zero? Now that's a different kind of question. I don't know how long that's going to take. So this is where we get into what if I don't know the number of iterations. And this is where we get into the most general form of a loop. This is when we use what's called a while loop. A while loop, I don't, this is some kind of different condition. It's not like I'm going from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. I'm going until I make $1,000, or I withdraw money until, or I withdraw money as long as I still have money. When I hit zero, stop. You know, they do, and there's formulas for this stuff, but they do programs that tell you, again, if you have a credit card, um, if you have a credit card and you don't normally look at your statements, look at a statement. There's a thing on there that's very disturbing where it says, if you only make the minimum payment, it will take you, well, at this point, it depends on the card. Have any of you ever looked at that statement, that line of your bank statement?
That's a relatively new addition, isn't it, from recent consumer protections?
Yeah, it's no, I mean it's recent in the history of credit cards. It's been up for a while, but it is a consumer protection thing because you may think, all right, I'm going to charge this stuff on my new credit card that I love so much, and as long as I make the minimum payments, what difference does it make? So I see most of you have not seen this thing. Whoa. Anybody who has, there's what, 50 people? Oh, only 3 people. I don't know where the rest of you are. You know what? Ugh. Anyway, so the 3 people who have, what kind of a number do you see on that? If you only make the minimum payment.
It's like 30 years.
Yeah, it's like 30 years. Different credit card companies have it set for different lengths of time. When credit cards first started, credit cards in general are new historically. Back in the 70s, there was only 1 or 2 credit cards like we think of them now. Visa and MasterCard. Visa was owned by Citibank, and MasterCard was owned by Bank of America. And they were the only cards that were out there that you had payments over time. If you bought anything else was from a store, Macy's card, um, Target and those weren't around then, but you had Macy's or major cards like American Express, Diners Club. You had to pay that balance at the end of the month. There was no, you're paying this over 30 years or 20 years or 10 years. It was you charged something and you had to pay it by the end of the month. MasterCard and Visa started putting this pay it off over time, but the overtime was like 2 or 3 years. And then slowly they started sneaking up the length of time on that. So they amortized, it's called amortizing. They figured out if you pay, oh, look, if their minimum payment is only $20 a month, yeah, but it's going to take them 30 years to pay it. I don't care because I'm paying interest for those 30 years that you're paying it off now. So that's why you never pay the minimum payment, even if you can only pay them $10 more, $20 more. And usually, I think they also have a thing now on, I don't look at the statements, it's too depressing. But if you pay an additional $50 a month, you'll finish it in 4 years. Because that's assuming you don't buy anything else in those 4 years, which is also not going to happen unless you cut up the card. So these are things we want to actually be able to write code for, so we can see how much should I start paying off to get rid of this thing. I mean, there are formulas, and if you take a financial calculus course, which isn't so much calculus, it's more like advanced algebra. But you can actually write, but you don't need to write code because you can just write this as a program which you honestly can write by next week. Okay. Um, so a while loop is while, and then we have a test condition. Now, this test condition is to enter body. You must be very careful. You must do something. You must increment or decrement. You must access, or no, I don't want to access, modify the loop invariant. This is a fancy word. Well, it really just means you must make sure the test condition can eventually be false. So, you know, for here, for Tuesday's class, what I want you to do. Find a car you want to buy. Even if you know you're not buying a car now. Everybody wants, I don't know, a Ferrari or something at some point. I mean, I'm happy with my SUV, but find a car you'd like to own. And get the information on the price and down payment. And giving you a very practical question. Look up car loan interest rates. Okay, so I really don't want a BMW, but say I want a BMW. I want a BMW. The model I want is, I don't know, $75,000. Yeah, keep dreaming. I found a car loan of 2.9% interest if I put down the $5,000 deposit. Okay. How much, or let's say, how long would it take me to save enough money to buy the car? One other thing you better look up, savings account interest. This is just sad. I just want you to find the information. I'm not asking you to write the program. This is also
Wait, are you asking us to calculate the total cost of the car
I'm not
after the loan interest?
I'm not asking you to calculate anything yet. All I want to design this algorithm with you in class Tuesday. So, because that's going to be there's two questions going on here. If you get the information for your dream car, just so that you get something to put this in context with on Tuesday, what we're going to do, and this is what your question is, we're going to look at this two ways. If I buy the car today, assuming I can get the down payment, how much am I going to end up paying? So, if I'm paying them on the car loan, I'm going to be paying a lot more money over time than if I paid it cash. So which way would be better? Now, I'm bringing this up because my father was an investment banker. And he gave me, my parents were very generous. They gave me a car when I graduated high school because they didn't want to have to worry about me going up to college. Because from Queens to the Bronx was, hours on the subway or buses. So they gave me a car for my graduation, and they gave me a savings account book. And my father said, if we had taken a loan for this car, if you had taken a loan for this car, you would have to pay so many dollars a month. So instead of you paying that money for the next 5 years, I want you every month to make that deposit to a savings account. So the car they gave me back then, brand new, was $4,900. Yeah, I know. I'm dating myself really bad that way. And I faithfully put that money that would have been the car loan payment into the savings account every month. And in 7 years, I had over $10,000 that I used to buy my next car cash. So I paid no interest on the next car. Actually, I got a discount for paying it in full. And I did the same thing. I calculated, because I knew how to do it, I calculated what my payments would be if I had bought that car. And I put that money away. And, 6 years later, I bought, 6 years, 7 years later, around 7 years later again, I bought a really nice Mercury Cougar with everything for cash. I had over the $22,000 to buy that car cash.
How much did the price increase
Yeah.
for inflation from the time that you started the savings account to when you actually bought it?
Okay, so the first car they gave me was the Monte Carlo, and that was 1974, and it was $4,900. Okay, 7 years later, I bought a new Monte Carlo, because I really liked that car. But of course, there were more extras by then, more features, but the same car that was $4,900 in 1974 was $10,000 in 1981. So that's what inflation was doing. Inflation got really bad at the end of the 70s. Whereas the difference, going from the Monte Carlo to a Cougar, that was a whole different class of car. So yes, it had doubled again, but it was over more years, and I went up a car. Now, payment prices on things have just gone so crazy. Cars and that, my first SUV was $30,000, and that was in 2001, and I think they're like 65 if I got a new one. So, prices have really gone crazy on cars. But anyway, this is really kind of an interesting question because one way I'm paying the bank to so I have my car now. But the other way, I'm letting the bank pay me to buy the car if I'm willing to wait. If I'm willing to plan ahead instead of saying 5 years from now I'm going to buy a car and take a loan, say, 5 years from now I'm going to buy a car, let me save up for it. Maybe I can't pay the whole payment, but I can pay a lot of it. And it's a fun example because you've got your dream car All right, you guys go have a quiz, have fun. I will contact your teacher, just let him know that, I have, I'm on Zoom if you guys, if anyone wants to get me there, or he can call if there's any problems with the test opening. All right, have a great weekend, guys. Study, I want all hundreds next Monday. Bye.
Will do.